When you're looking at sizing, I don't see just right on there what size this is. Get a flat-headed screwdriver might be a better idea here rather than a razor knife. If you're going to use a razor knife, I'd put it down before you just start yanking stuff out. It's a great way to end up with that thing in your thumb or the palm of your hand. Back in the day, a lot of contractors, staining contractors, when they bought these at like a in-person retail store, would flip them upside down in the back of their truck as they went to the job site, just because the bumping and the sloshing would do a lot of the mixing for them. You got to have a lot of faith in that seal, though. Today's video is brought to you by our good friends over at Nationwide Industries, the Fence Pros' #1 choice. And they are this Fence Pros' #1 choice for a couple reasons. One, we love using their Keystone Traverse latches. They're easy to install. You simply bolt them onto the post. No drilling for rods or cutting the rods required. It's a pretty straightforward installation process. We also love using their full line of galvanized hardware. It shows up quickly and reliably. All right, guys, today's video is titled Fence Stain Sprayer, the best way to stain a fence on a budget, from the House Barons YouTube channel. Love the channel name. If you'd like to watch this content in its entirety without my talking over it and interrupting, we'll link the video in the description below. So I'm glad we're getting a chance to review this video. We've seen some professional ways of applying stain, and we've seen some semi-professionals applying stain in a less than professional way. So let's see how a DIYer takes on the project of staining their fence.
Hey, this is Dave from housebarons.com. Today we're going to show you the best way to stain a fence on a budget. Part of that is making use of a bug sprayer or a hand pump pesticide sprayer.
You know, I really like this. Even if we're talking about fencing professionals getting into staining fence in a very small capacity or kind of tiptoeing into that world, these pump-up sprayers are more or less bulletproof. They're easy to clean. They're inexpensive to replace if you ever need to. I mean, shoot, you could keep different sprayers for different colors so that you're not trying to go from a dark walnut to a light cedar tone. Pump-up sprayers, great way to get started, but also from a DIY perspective, they are great for applying stain.
Today we're staining a brand new fence that's just been put up. The outside has already been stained, and we're going to take on the task of staining the inside today. I'm first going to show you the necessary supplies that we're going to use, because getting all the supplies right will go.
All right, so we're flood coating, doing the initial coat with the sprayer, then following up with either a rolling brush or a hand brush. I like this a lot. Back brushing goes a long way. So it's an oil-based sealant. Also like this, it's got the goof-proof label on it, meaning that you can flood coat them on. They will self-level. You won't get runs or drips or anything like that on the board as long as you flood coat, as long as you get enough product on the board. But I like the fact that he's following it up with back brushing, just making sure they get every nook and cranny.
A roller, a 9-inch roller that we'll use to back roll things, and a brush to back brush as well. A broomstick to go and attach to the roller. This is the stain we're using. It's called Ready Seal, and they say it's goof proof.
Yeah, there's several brands out there. Ready Seal is kind of the one you see in a lot of the home improvement stores or online on online retailers. They're kind of the consumer grade maybe version of the stain. Pecan in color looks like pecan's far and away the preferred color, at least in the United States. We talked to the folks over at Expert Professional Wood Care Products a lot. Caleb over there said pecan is far and away their best seller. The thing is, when you're staining a fence or really any outside wood surface, a deck, pergola, look for a penetrating oil-based sealant. It will get you so much further than a water-based sealant, and as I said, the oil base is going to be to a large extent goof proof.
And then this is the magic sauce right here. This is a sprayer, and it's a regular pesticide sprayer, but we're going to use it to apply the stain. It works rather nicely.
When you're looking at sizing, I don't see just right on there what size this is. Get a 2-gallon sprayer, and they make these in like 1 gallon, 2 gallon. I think the backpack are like 4 gallons. 2 gallons seems to be a good place to start with these. It's not so heavy that you're just dragging it around.
If you have a paint sprayer, you can use that, but this will definitely do the job.
You really do need to shake these up well, especially if it's a large retailer. whether it's online or in person. They've likely been sitting there a while. A lot of that pigment has worked its way to the bottom, separated itself a bit from the oil base that it's combined with. So you really do want to shake these up quite a lot. A paint stir that you put on a cordless drill goes a long way in getting all this mixed up. Back in the day, a lot of contractors, sanding contractors, when they bought these at like a in-person retail store, would flip them upside down in the back of their truck as they went to the job site, just because the bumping and the sloshing would do a lot of the mixing for them. You got to have a lot of faith in that seal, though. Flat-headed screwdriver might be a better idea here rather than a razor knife. If you're going to use a razor knife, I'd put it down before you just start yanking stuff out. It's a great way to end up with that thing in your thumb or the palm of your hand.
As you get ready to do this, you have to adjust this. You have to adjust this nozzle, turning it one way or the other to get a good spray pattern.
I like that wand and nozzle combo he's using. It's a metal wand, metal nozzle. Just means that you can clean it a lot easier. You could use some solvent with it. You'll need to keep an eye on your O-rings, but this thing will take a lot more abuse than the plastic nozzles you see on some of the sprayers. So you'd want it to be a more consistent spray than that, maybe. Looks like it was heavy at the top, heavy at the bottom. If you tighten that thing down a little bit, it tightens the stain pattern up, but it might get a little bit more consistent.
Now the spray.
So the nice thing with oil base is as long as he flood coats this on, so you already see some waves. You can see where he's stained and maybe some of it's heavier than the rest. As long as he flood coats that on, all of those stains, you might eventually see some drips. Those will all fade away.
This wood is really thirsty being brand new, so it really absorbs it pretty quick.
Being that we know it's what he says in his words, thirsty, or it's just really dry, wanting to absorb, you'd probably want some more stain on this. They don't call it a flood coat for nothing. You'd want to just really saturate these boards as completely as you can. Tightening up the spray pattern could likely help with that as well. See, if he was using like a water base where it could flash quickly, he would likely be left with those lap marks where the stain had overlapped itself. You see it darker in some areas than others. With the oil-based stain, it's going to give him time to back brush, even everything out. But even if he doesn't back brush, he'll likely still be okay.
One thing we did notice is that as the stain is applied, it goes on a lot darker. In this section here, you can see that in the foreground.
This is what I mean though. So you probably didn't apply enough of the product. Still looks nice, but you can see some lap marks, some overlapping spray marks. You likely didn't put on enough of it, which is common when you look at DIY spraying. You're wanting to get the most amount of color with the least amount of stain. You don't want to buy any extra stain or any more than what you need. The results could be something like this. If you really apply it heavily, it will take more stain, but it'll be a uniform look.
The stain has been on the fence for about 3 weeks, and then the stain in the background
Yeah, so, and he was saying he stained the front before he did the back. So he may have just put a light coat on this so he could do the video to show the difference, but you would not see those drips if he had put just a full flood coat on the front.
It's only been on for about a week, so it does lighten up over time and give you that pecan finish that's on the label.
But if you look at that second panel in, that's the one where we were seeing a lot of those. It was darker on the tops than it was on the bottom. Now he went through and back brushed it, but even you notice when he was doing the back brushing, some of that still persisted. But since he put a flood coat on it, now that second panel in, it all looks fairly consistent. You don't see a lot of parts that are darker than the rest. You see some variations in color of the wood, but that's just the characteristics of the wood coming out, not the stain, I believe.
Okay, it's a super hot day today. It's 95. So this is just drying really fast, but it doesn't dry splotchy, which is really nice. We've done 1, 2.
The nice thing about the oil base is it doesn't really actually dry in the first hour or 2 hours. So the oil is penetrating into the lumber. It's soaking, the lumber is soaking that oil up. The water in the stain will flash dry. It will just evaporate, leaving all the pigment there on the surface. That's one of the reasons you get lap marks. The oil, if you think about oiling a good pair of boots, the oil itself doesn't necessarily dry. The boots they become dry to the touch, but it's just because that boot has absorbed all of the oil that you're putting on it. Same thing with these boards. It really, on the Ready Seal bucket, they call it goof proof, but it really does make it a friendly product to work with.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 sections, 4 liters. About a gallon for 7 sections. So 7 8-foot sections that are about 5 foot high.
Well, guys, what do you think? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Really, regardless of brand, any of the oil-based stains you deal with are going to be what Ready Seal calls goof-proof. They're going to be a lot easier for you to work with and make it more forgiving on you and your end. As long as you get a thick, penetrating coat, a good flood coat on there, that's really going to make it easier for you to work with in the future. Guys, from now, Joe Everest, the fence expert, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors, and I'll see you next time.